Hi, welcome to the second session in our Certified Professional Preparation course. In this tutorial, I will talk about the exam objectives. The exam objectives for the Revit structure is a document that you can find in the RS website. Uh, this document that I share now is very important for you to use it as a guide and prepare for the exam accordingly. The first part of the exam objectives talk about the target audience. So this exam and certification is really for people who have enough working experience, not only in the design, but also in the solving complex challenges during the design process. Um, they should have advanced skills in communication, digital skills, and also the Revit software. This experience usually comes from real world projects, and others recommends at least 2 years of working experience before taking the exam, which is about 400 hours to 1,200 hours working experience. And if you have such experience, you're a right candidate. But if you are not, if you do not have that experience, you should get that experience before taking the exam. So this certification is very, very important for people who want to advance their career, who wants to get promoted, and also work in BIM projects. Uh, this certification does not only test your ability to model structure, but also the ability to document your project, your design, the ability to present your design, and also share it with your colleagues in online collaboration tools. The exam also asks for prerequisite skills like navigate and the Revit interface, view and navigate the Revit model, understand the concept of structural 3D modeling, create and modify basic 3D elements, annotations, and views, and demonstrate the basic digital literacy skills. So, before taking the exam, you should have some prerequisite skills in order to do in the exam well. Now I share the Revit interface. I'm gonna talk about these um, prerequisite skills in more details. So Revit really asks about the skills that you are able to go through various views. Example, click on these navigation tools here, be able to see various views, elevation views, 3D views, various angles. Um, you should also be able to, yes, to model 3D elements, 3D elements such as walls, columns, beams, systems, the slabs, the topography of the structures you see here. So it's really uh, important that you should be able to go through various tools in the Revit see various views and zoom in and zoom out, scroll. The Revit also asks for modification of the basic 3D elements, annotations, and views. So you should be able to select various elements and then able to edit that type if you want to edit and change an element in Revit. For example, this one is a joist angle wave and it has a type. You should be able to go to that type and change the parameters. So it's all about the prerequisite skills and the digital skills that you should have in order to go through the Revit. Should also be able to navigate and understand the concept of structural 3D modeling. So those are the prerequisite skills that you should know. And the next part of the exam objectives is talking about the exam format. So here, the exam format is basically the online version is that you do not have access to the software during the exam. You are only able to see the questions and the answers, the options, of course, that you should select the right answer. So it's really designed to test your ability and to use the software to collaborate and communicate without having access to the software. And there are various types of questions that you can find in the ARIS website. So we talked about various types of questions in the last session. The outline for the exam is that it has 5 main parts, questions that are related to this exam domain, topics, the modeling and materials weighs 20% of the exam families, 18% documentation has higher, it has about 22%, views 18%, and Revit project management 22%. So documentation and Revit project management are very important parts. So of course, modeling and materials, and then should also know families and the views. As I said earlier, it's not about just modeling or defining materials in 3D modeling. It's more about understanding the concepts of building information modeling, families, parametric modeling, the documentation, how you document your design, how you present different views, and how you manage and take part in the Revit project. Let's go and see various exam domains in the Revit. Okay, let's go. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna show you the Revit interface again. There are 5 main parts in Revit. One is 3D modeling. So in this, once you have the architectural model, you need to model the structural elements using the architectural model. So from the architectural model, you get the levels, the details, the grades, and of course the properties of the materials that architect has recommended. And then you develop the 3D structural models such as beams. So this beam is a structural beam, and walls, and columns, there are structural columns. We also have architectural walls and structural walls, and here we do have structural column and architectural model as well. So some more about 3D modeling, defining their materials. Example, if I select this column, then I should define the materials, the properties of this column, the dimensions, both the geometric and the materials parameters for this particular column. The families are really important. So you should be able to create family, define various families. So families are really important. We do have system families and loadable families. The walls, doors, windows here, you see there are system families. You will also be able to load and also define and modify the loadable families such as doors, windows, and so on, decks. Those are really important. You should be able to understand various parameter types such as instant parameters, type parameters, and so on. Documentation is really important. If you see here in the browser organization, project browser organization, you see various views and 3D views, 2D views, various families and details, and so on and so forth. So these are really important that you should be able to document your design in a proper way, so that it is readable, it is comprehensible, and you can communicate your design very well. Views are also important. So various views, plan views, section views, elevation views, detail views, and so on and so forth. And on the project management part, you would be able to basically share your project with your colleagues, collaborate online, create work sites, and share your design, synchronize it, and communicate your designs. These are really important. You should also be able to solve issues and interference and check the interference and conflicts with others. That's a very important part and withstand 22% of the exam. I recommend you use the software as much as you can and go through various functions and tools. That way you will understand not only the function of those tools and those bottoms, but also the workflow and the design process, which are really substantial for you in the exam. And let's go again to the document. So we talked about 5 parts of the exam in their ways. And now we go to the exam objectives one by one. The first part is the modeling and materials. Talked a little bit. Let's go in details. In modeling and materials, you should be able to create and modify structural elements. Structural elements are foundations, floors, columns, walls. You have various types of walls and also structural framing and connections. For each part, you should be able to understand various types of those structural elements and create that type, change their parameters. For example, for the foundation, we have various foundation types such as strip footings, pile caps, and you need to understand various types of foundations and also their usage and their applications in real world projects, when and where you use the piles, the pile caps. Um, the structural floors are also important. It should define the boundary conditions, the slopes of structural floors. They are not always level and horizontal. You might have sloped roof slab and with various thickness. There might be various openings on the floors, such as stair, the opening for a stair. So you should be able to create shafts and openings on those structural floors. The structural walls are really important. Should create various types of walls, change their parameters, create your own wall, edit the wall profile, change the profile, the layers, so the slopes and the thickness of the layers, the constraints and how you attach the walls to the floors. Those are really important. For the columns, of course, you should be able to differentiate between architectural columns and structural columns. They create slanted columns. So columns are not always vertical. Sometimes you might need to have slanted columns, define the constraints and the properties of the columns. Are really important concepts and tools for the columns. And for the structural framing and connections, you should be able to create beam systems, the trusses, bracings, joists, girders, purlins, and horizontal bracing, coping, concrete framing, and so on. So very important part for the beams, how you connect the beams with the columns, with the slabs, and so on. Of course, stairs are really important. We have various types of stairs, and you should be able to create those stairs and define their properties. And also the function and limitation of the model and detail groups, and the reinforcement tools. Reinforcement tools are really challenging and also important. Once you create the 3D elements such as walls, floors, columns, and beams, then you should define the reinforcement, the covers, the reinforcement settings, the shapes, the size, and how they are uh, distributed, how they are connected, how you number each rebar, and how you define the rebar set, and so on. So this first part is just the 20% of the exam. Of course, really important parts, but they are not all parts of the exam. If you go to the Revit, as I said earlier, should use the Revit as much as you can. And I said that structure elements can be found in this structural menu. You can find the beams, walls. We have various types of walls, structural and architectural. For the structural model, you should create structural walls, columns. Of course, we have various types of floors, architectural and structural. Yeah, we have beam systems and so on. Connections are important. Various slabs, we have isolated um, slab and reinforcement and so on. Reinforcement settings can be found here. So you should define the reinforcement settings before you define the reinforcement for the structural elements. And these are all about the 3D modeling. We're going to talk about each function separately in the next sessions for the moment. I hope you understand what the 3D structural modeling means in Revit structure. Okay, let's go to the document again. Those were about the modeling, the elements, and in the first part and second part is that you should modify the materials. So in Revit, you do not only define the sizes, you create a real model, of course. Of course, it's digital, but it represents a real world scenario where you define the structural properties, the colors, the elasticity models, their grades, their materials, and specifications. And the second part, which is about families, families stand for 18% of the exam. You should be able to configure family types, be able to add parameter, rename the duplicate family types, and edit the properties. Should also understand the family categories and types. We have, of course, various family types and categories, such as nested families, simple families, and type catalog, system and component loadable, and in-place families. Very important. And transfer system families from one project to another. The family parameters are really important. You create and delete instant or type parameters. You determine their parameters, discipline, their type, and the group. How you use the functions to create parameters for booleans such as yes or no, numbering, and so on. Create family contents. You should be able to select family template and export that family to create a type catalog, and also add reference planes, lines, and dimensions, create geometries, just forms, lines, model lines, visibility settings, and associate dimensional parameters. Um, Families are the core elements of Revit. Should really understand what a family means in Revit, how you duplicate a family, how you change their parameters, how you create instant um, parameters, and so on. The third part of the exam is about documentation. So you should be able to use dimensions, how you edit the witness lines, for example, how you spot dimensions, how you customize dimension styles, how you create and modify annotation families, creating labels, tags, span direction symbols, text, and so on. Create legend views and also annotate your tags and so on. You should also create and use detail components, load and create a detail component family, detail component, repeating details. Use face filters to override graphic displays, and assign and display or accept primary design options. The document revisions are important for sheet issues and revisions. So you might have multiple versions of your model, different revisions, and for that you need to document them very well. Uh, so there might be revision numbering, issuing a revision, cloud, and also uh, settings such as project per sheet. Create revision cloud is really important. If you want to highlight an element, for example, or the revisions, you should use the cloud. You should also be able to create and configure sheets, define the print settings and the export settings, how you print them, how you arrange and organize them, and how you create a custom print settings. Last part, but not least, last but not least part is the views, where you apply advanced view techniques such as changing the browser organizations, the discipline phase and view types, how you set the view properties, how you apply visibility graphic overrides, apply and duplicate and edit view templates, set up a sheet, and also apply work sharing display modes to view and duplicate views. You manage, create, and modify schedules. So you are able to do customizations and prepare schedules and bill of quantities and Revit. It's very quick, very reliable, and precise. You are able to create various sheetlates, schedules and quantity takeoff. Also manipulate those data. You can sort and group them, format them, and itemize them. Are really useful for cost estimations, bidding, and preparing bill of quantities. The last part of the exam objectives talks about the Revit project management. So you should not be able to only model, define the views, document it, and create families, but also able to uh, manage the project. So you should be able to link or import files first with the you working in a multidisciplinary project, BIM as a multidisciplinary project. And for that, you will be using link and import files functions. You would be able to manage those linked files. You should learn the concept of copy and monitoring elements and the difference between important and linked files. You should be able to insert and import various types of files. You define the work sharing concepts, meaning that you should define the work states, create the central files, create the local files, synchronize the model once you change something, and elaborate with your colleagues about the changes you have made, how you borrow and relinquish elements, how you share your project in cloud-based system. Should also be able to use labels and grades. Using the architectural model, you bring the levels and grades, modify them, edit them, and add the levels or the grades. The project standard is important. You should be able to transfer project standards from one project to another and then establish shared coordinates. Defining those parameters are really important. You should be able to, you should learn the difference between local coordinates, global coordinates, shared coordinates, global parameters, and so on. You should also edit object styles, meaning that you should be able to control and edit the appearance of elements at the project level. So you might be able to change the styles, line types. Of course, each company, each organization has your own styles, your own way of designing, but you should be able to modify them accordingly. And purge tools are really important. So in Revit, you should be able to create healthy models. The model is behaving, functioning as a living model, should have a healthy model. And for that, you should be able to audit the file regularly and compact. Use the compact tools to reduce the size of the model and eliminate and delete the unnecessary families, the unnecessary objects from the model. And lastly, assess, review warnings, and check the model for interference. And finally, understand the shared project and global parameters. It's very important to understand the parameters. Revit is a parametric modeling tool. You should understand the difference between shared parameters, project parameters, and global parameters, local parameters, instant parameters, type parameters, and so on. Parameters are really important. You should be able to create any data parameters, understand their differences, and um, know more about the parametric modeling. These are very useful. Once again, I review it, and the Revit itself, um, um, you should not be just thinking to learn everything in Revit. There are a lot of tools, but of course, you use the exam objectives to prepare for the exam. And the exam is they say that you should have working experience in real world projects. You should be able to navigate through this interface of the Revit. You should be able to create various structural elements, edit their parameters, create and duplicate them, transfer them from one project to another, define different um, reinforcement um, numbers, and also this part is really important. Should be able to create families, duplicate families, then learn various family types, and document your design in a way that it is easy to understand, easy to collaborate and communicate. You should also be able to create various views, and um, lastly, you should be able to create uh, work sharing sets, define the work sharing concepts, create different design phases, design options, and share your work with others, solve issues, communicate your design, and at the end, create a healthy and good model of the project. So it's about modeling, about documentation, views. Families are really important, should know. And lastly, Revit project management, where you collaborate with um, your team in order to solve issues, in order to communicate your design. That's all for this session. I hope you like this video. If you think this video is useful, please share it with your friends and colleagues. If you have any questions, you can write your questions. I'm also available for collaboration. If you have any issues, if you need me, let me know. I'll be able to find solutions for your problems. I was a BIM expert and Revit expert and structural engineer, I am able to solve most of the questions that you might have. So feel free to contact me anytime. And I will see you in the next session. Have a great one and good luck.